We stay with this matter of striking health workers tonight here on In Focus the South. The South African Democratic Teachers Union has condemned the bullying of members affiliated to Sadtu by the National Health and Allied Workers Union, and Education Workers Union rather. Some Sadtu leaders who were attending a workshop in the Eastern Cape were attacked and forced to join the strike. For more on this, we're joined by Xolani Fakude, Sadtu Secretariat Officer. Good to have you with us, and thank you very much for your time. I find it strange that you are in one affiliation called COSATU, but you seem to be not aligned when it comes to this particular strike. I heard earlier on COSATU saying, well, this is not just a Nehawu strike, but it's a broad public servant strike. What is your position?
Well, first let me greet you, Tibos. Let me greet the viewers as well, and thank you for having us here. We actually even find it stranger that we are finding ourselves in this kind of a situation. We released a statement, and really condemning what we believe is one of the lowest points in our constitutional democracy, what we saw yesterday happening in the Eastern Cape, whereby we had leaders of Sadtu, we had negotiators, shop stewards who were in a workshop, by the way, that was facilitated by another institution, and they had to be intimidated by a group of members, we believe, of another union, clearly from the paraphernalia that they were wearing, etc., and really demanding, literally, trying to drag our members and leaders in the Eastern Cape into a strike action. It is quite odd, Tibos, and we are saying as a union that the Federation as well needs to actually play a very, very decisive role in this context. As Sadtu, we still have got a very, very keen interest on maintaining the unity within COSATU unions. We still have got a very, very serious interest, by the way, because we know that when we have some of these issues whereby one union seems to be bullying another, it can only weaken our case. It can only weaken our collective voice. So we are saying, Tibos, that this is one of the lowest points of our democracy, but we are very clear and want to make it categorically clear that we find it unacceptable. As Sadtu, we've got our own processes, we've got our own constitution, we're an autonomous union, and we'll defend our rights. Yeah.
Does this have to do with the fact that as Sadtu, you have accepted the 3%, and does Nehawu feel done under by you as members of the Federation by accepting this 3%?
Well, I think that question will be best placed to Nehawu about if they feel that we are undone by us. But let's speak about the 3%, Tibos. The reality of the matter is that the PSCBC, which is the Public Sector Bargaining Council, it has got a particular constitution. Now, in the context of that particular 3% issue, which we have clarified, I was here, by the way, around that time, clarifying the same issue. On the very same thing, the Constitution is very clear of the PSCBC that at the time whereby an agreement cannot be reached, therefore, the employer will then activate a particular right and implement unilaterally. So it is not just about Sadtu per se just agreeing. Yes, we accepted because we also sat down and looked at the realities, the socio-economic realities, the state of our economy, the competing priorities that we have right now as a society at Tibos. And we came to a conclusion that perhaps given the circumstances, we could then rather be seen to be moving forward. So let us then be clear about that, because it is also part of the myths which are going on right now as part of some propaganda, as if we went out of our way to fight for the 3%. The constitution of the PSCBC was activated, and we all had to implement it and observe it.
Now believes accepting the 3% is akin to accepting the stealing of money in government. They say, well, if we accept that, then we're accepting it's okay for these officials to steal money that should be going to workers, and we must live with the 3% while they fatten their pockets with all the loot that they're taking from government.
Well, that is a societal discussion, Tibos. It is not just about the public service and its employees and the employer in this particular case. If we want to talk about corruption, the malfeasance that we see in the government, by the way, as Sadtu, we are one of those unions that have very, very strongly and stood against corruption, by the way. And we pride ourselves in that. And we are saying, therefore, that our comrades in Nehawu also know, we sit together there in the COSATU Central Executive Committee, they know that this is an agenda that we all have as a federation. So we do not think that elevating a labor issue, considering the current circumstances, should be elevated to us actually agreeing to corruption and stealing that would be a fallacy and a misrepresentation of the reality.
Yes. Is it going to make things awkward for you the next time you sit around the table?
It does not have to, these are our comrades. Even right now, we just have got differing mandates. As Sadtu, we've got a mandate from our members, and we're going to protect our union. At some point, we are going to find each other, This is a phase which we need to go through, by the way, even as a movement, even as a federation. However, as such, we believe that we reserve our rights to protect ourselves, to protect our constitution, to protect our autonomy.
Andrew Levy says it is a folly of labor unions to lead your members to believe that they can get this jump of a 10%. Well, that you need to educate them in a sense that it has never happened. I mean, the likelihood of you settling lower than 10% is quite high in terms of how these negotiations go in the past. So the fact that we can lose 4 lives while we are fighting about this and we destroy infrastructure and so on, when we know from when we come in to this negotiation that we are not going to get 10%, is quite a wrong thing to do.
It is actually a very serious point, Tibos, that we need to also raise. By the way, let us talk about the 10% in particular. We also believe that when you look at the initial offer from the employer, of course, adjusted offers could have been made. We are going to communicate as well to our members in actual fact as Sadtu. When we actually look at what is even presented there, one is even going to appreciate that actually when you look at the lower levels, salary levels between 1 and 5, you'll actually realize that they're actually even beyond that particular 10%. When you look at it in terms of the sliding scale, the issue here is the average. So yes, you are correct. History tells us that we have had some cul-de-sacs and some serious limitations when we were calling for essentially a double digit. That does not mean that as workers and as organized labor, we have abandoned that particular agenda. However, what we are saying as Sadtu Tibos, that what matters and what is the reality, that South Africa is existing within a particular subjective and objective reality that affects her economy. We are not here, by the way, to speak on behalf of the employer. We are probably the most annoying union when it comes to the employer. However, we've got a responsibility as the teachers of your children, Tibos, as the teachers of your society, as the builders of the nation, to put facts on the ground, to separate facts from myth, to speak about what is reality, and to consider society as a whole, Tibos.
Yeah. Speaking of considering society as a whole, I know you are coming now because you're raising an issue of your members being intimidated coming out of a workshop. What is the view then of Sadtu? Because you also use the healthcare facilities. Some of your members don't can't afford medical aid that will take them to private facilities. They have to access those facilities, but patients were being turned away from getting into hospitals.
Well, Tibos, I do not want to sound like the Minister of Health was speaking yesterday about essential services and so forth. That is the role of the employer. However, what we are going to say as a union is that on many occasions, by the way, Tibos, I will give an example of the COVID pandemic at its height of the lockdowns and so forth. At some point, even ourselves as a union, we had to take a firm decision. Some of those decisions maybe were sometimes, as you would perceive in social media, maybe not received by some of our members, but then we had to also find a balance about the life, because a life cannot be recovered. It does concern us as a union that we have got a situation whereby hospital gates would even be closed, beds not attended, and we are asking, then what kind of a society is this? Is this the national developmental society that we all aspire to? A society that can say that at some point we can withdraw our labor, even when we are considered essential services, risking directly, very directly, not indirectly, the lives of others. But then, Tibos, like I said, we are not here to speak on behalf of the department. That is an issue of the employer, but we are certainly concerned as a union about what is unfolding.
They're back at the bargaining council now. I believe there's been that call really to get back around to the negotiating table for both sides of this fight. What are you hoping will come out of it as Sadtu?
Well, what we are doing currently right now at Tibos, we are continuing with the negotiations. In fact, we also want to make the point that we even noticed certain tendencies whereby even administratively that collective bargaining that we are referring to right now, the PSCBC, also acts in a way that is even inconsistent and against its very own constitution at an administrative level. In fact, we're even seeing what we can easily classify as a parallel negotiating structure, right? Because we ourselves, TIWOS, and the other unions, we are still in that bargaining chamber right now. We are busy consulting our members on the adjusted offer and so forth. And we believe that we need also to maintain the integrity of the PSCBC. Those who are leading administratively the PSCBC, who are supposed to coordinate our discussions, even us as employees and the employers, should not be finding themselves also in being involved in some of what could be really subjective organizational issues between ourselves and sister unions. So that is part of what really we want to speak sharply about. So very quickly, Tibos, and in short, as a union in Sadtu and others, we are still in the bargaining chamber. We are negotiating as we speak.
Yeah. Negotiating in the bargaining chamber, others would say, why don't you take the negotiations directly to your alliance partners as a federation and take this and not make the poor people suffer, who are the working class, by the way, but take it to them who use private facilities and who live in air-conditioned homes and work in air-conditioned offices.
Well, it's a very fair sentiment. It was our alliance partner, the ANC. We engage the ANC on a regular basis. We do have got multiple structures, including the political alliance coordinating space as well. So we do, in actual fact, speak to our alliance and our allies on a regular basis through those various structures. The reality, however, is that the alliance itself has got a government to run, a country to run, a country with competing priorities, with very, very extreme socio-economic gaps, very, very serious inequality gaps. And we are willing to sit down with our allies, just like we do. That is why even in our own right, as Sadtu members, we will be there in those conferences. We will be there in those policy conferences at all levels, because we believe that we are part of the picture, we are part of the solution. So in short, Tibos, I know that you wanted me to answer the other way, but now this way says that we engage our partner, our allies on a regular basis, and we will continue to do so.
Xolani Fakude, as always, much appreciated. Thank you very much for
coming. Thank you for the opportunity.
Xolani Fakude, Sadtu Secretariat Officer, there with us.